live.
Hello?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Okay, looks like we are live we're live basically across the board. We're live on Facebook and YouTube, and we are also live on Clubhouse as well now. So, Bismillahi walhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Want to welcome everyone back to, okay, just a second. Sorry, I know I just kind of stopped there, but ran into a little bit of an issue here.
Or tech support. Everyone's able to witness tech support.
I mean, I just
Live.
I just do what I do.
That's true.
Hold on, but I just can't talk and do it at the same time. But don't laugh. It's rude. It's rude to laugh at older people. All right, I'm trying.
It's like when you're looking for directions and you turn on the radio.
Yep. Okay. So want to welcome everyone back to another session of the.
There's an echo somewhere.
There's an echo somewhere. I think it's on Mufti Kamani's part.
Is that better?
I agree.
No, it's still.
How about now?
Try now. Now it's gone. Now it's back. Now it's gone.
Okay.
I don't know how to completely kill the audio on my phone. Let me see if I can figure it out.
So I was able to fix the issue. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Mufti Kamani still is working on his issue.
Yeah.
But this is just how the world goes sometimes.
That is true. That is very true.
Is that better right here?
Yes.
Hold on. No.
Still there? Oh, goodness. Okay. Just give me a moment. Let me figure this out.
All right. So in the meanwhile, I'll just kind of pick up from where I left off. So want to welcome everyone back to another session of the Qalam Hangout, where we get together usually Thursday afternoons and we just kind of hang out for a little bit. Mufti Hussein Kamani, Ustadh Abdurrahman Murphy, and myself. And we have a little conversation here about, whatever's going on, whatever's on our minds, and just hang out and have a more casual discussion and conversation about it. So, alhamdulillah, we're very happy to welcome everyone back. We hope and pray, inshallah, everyone is doing well, everyone is safe and sound, and that everyone is excited for the month of Ramadan. So I know that there's been a lot of Ramadan-related discussions. Most of the Friday khutbahs tomorrow, the sermons are probably going to be about the month of Ramadan. There's been a number of Ramadan programs and lectures that have probably been going on. Even here amongst us, Ustadh Abdurrahman's been doing a weekly series from Roots about preparing for the month of Ramadan. We had a Q&A last night. And this Saturday, April 10th, from 3 to 6 p.m. Central Time, we're going to be having a webinar, a very thorough, in-depth webinar where we'll go through the fiqh of fasting, the fiqh of, the rules and regulations of giving your zakat during the month of Ramadan. And then we'll have a number of other sessions as well, how to build a relationship with the Quran, how to be regular with your prayers, what is the deal with Taraweeh, a whole bunch of different sessions, inshallah, going in depth with all the Qalam instructors and scholars. So a lot of, mashallah, discussions happening pertaining to the month of Ramadan. But at the same time, though, when something as monumentous and as amazing as the month of Ramadan is upon us, then it warrants, a lot of discussion and a lot of conversation. So we'll probably start off the discussion with Ramadan and then kind of see where the discussion goes. Before we do that, just a couple of things real quickly. First of all, alhamdulillah, we are joined by our friend, question mark, because, I mean, I think he's my friend, but he doesn't always act like a friend. But Qari Noman is here with us. And we already have two comments from Qari Noman and from Adil in Ottawa saying, MashaAllah, Ustad's shirt. Literally both comments. One says, MashaAllah, that shirt, Ustadh. And one comment says, MashaAllah, Ustad's shirt.
Yeah.
So I feel like you owe everyone an explanation.
I mean, you can't really explain greatness. It just, it is what it is, right? Like, I mean,
what do you say? We are all witnesses.
Yeah. Some people, and then you have Hamza, mashallah, coming up with the real astute analysis right there.
I'm not even sure what that word is.
I know. It's indicative of many things, though. So the thing is, it's just interesting, and I'm glad that Hamza, mashallah, left that comment because it's really interesting. Some people think that Taco Bell is good. I think Hamza's probably one of those people. But real people know that Taco Bell is not good, right? Like, and so when someone recognizes greatness, you can't really explain to somebody why Torchy's is better than Taco Bell, right? It's just one of those things. It's self-evident. It's manifest, right?
Ustadh, I know that your mother-in-law recently came back from Bangladesh. Did she bring you that shirt as a gift?
No, this shirt actually was a gift to Bangladesh.
Oh, he's actually staying in Bangladesh.
Oh, I'm sorry, Hamza. I didn't mean. Wow, this took a turn for the worse. I don't know what that means. But Hamza, I appreciate you, and I think you're a wonderful person, mashallah. And I take back everything I said about Taco Bell.
But I think the word for your shirt, Ustadh, is shundur.
Shundur. Onek shundur. Onek shundur. Yeah.
Onek shundur.
Yeah, Onek shundur. Shaykh, why don't you tell us some stories about Bangladesh? I think you spent some time there.
I spent 3 months in Bangladesh. I have some amazing stories about Bangladesh.
3 months in Bangladesh is actually 12 months in the Gregorian calendar, by the way, guys.
That's what it amounts to.
Yeah.
But I had a phenomenal time there. It was actually really, really interesting. So someone asked the question on Facebook, Sister Salma, will there be Quran reflections this Ramadan? There absolutely will be. The whole program, inshallah, we're going to be announcing it at Saturday's program and then releasing it online, emailing it out to everyone, posting it all over Qalam's, social media outlets, the Ramadan program. But just a quick little overview, we're going to have quite a bit going on this Ramadan, inshallah, bidnillah. We definitely, for those that are capable and those that are comfortable, we're always encouraging people to go to the masjid and go to the house of Allah and pray there as much as you can. But at the same time, understanding that, people still, maybe some of the masajid might be more limited in what they could offer or not offer. And then also a lot of folks want a lot of education and understanding of the Quran during the month of Ramadan. So every morning there will be a session with du'as and supplications. The prophetic du'as or prophetic ad'iyah and supplications. That will happen every morning, inshallah. Then in the afternoon, a little bit early evening, we're going to have the reflections and the summary of one juz shared every single day. Later in the evening, right before iftar time, we're going to be having an explanation of the meaning and the understanding of a Quranic dua, a Quranic supplication. And then every night, later at night after Isha time, we're going to have the recitation along with translation of an entire juz every night. For those who are not able to maybe get the whole Quran in Tarawih prayers at the masjid, it's going to be streamed, the recitation of an entire juz every night. So there'll be 4 daily broadcasts going out from Qalam every single day. That's redundant. I'm sorry. There'll be 4 daily broadcasts, and inshallah, we're really excited. and we're really looking forward to it. Our team's been working really hard behind the scenes. All the instructors are already, doing all their preparations, and it's the month of Ramadan. What more can be said? It's the opportunity to really reap all the rewards and all the mercy and the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so as an institution and an organization that is blessed to have people of knowledge, right? Our greatest blessing are, the people that we have. That's our greatest asset. Mufti Hussein Kamani, Ustadh Abdurrahman Murphy, Shaykh Mikael Smith, Shaykh Muntasir Zaman, Ustadh Atif Sharif, Ustadh Fatima Let, Ustadh Suhaib Shaykh, and more. So we're really blessed, but we also understand that, as for those watching on Facebook and YouTube, you can see I have a sign there in the back that says, "With great power comes great responsibility." O kama qala Uncle Ben. So we're very blessed. And so we have a lot of responsibility. So inshallah, we're here for the community. We're here to serve. And we look forward to serving you every day in the month of Ramadan, inshallah, bidnillah. With that, I was wondering if we could just kind of get the conversation started. Ustadh, this Saturday we're going to have a session, and it will be quite technical because there are a lot of technical things that have to be explained and addressed and laid out for folks. But at the same time, we will try to have a lot of the spiritual advice in there as well. But one of the discussions that comes up, and it came up last night as well in the Q&A that you were hosting, Ustadh, that is kind of like people's Ramadan objectives or Ramadan goals. What are they? How do you go about in achieving them? For most people, they're not able to completely put everything on pause and on hold during the month of Ramadan. There's some people that have the blessing to do that. And, I remember those days of my life as a student of knowledge. The Jamia where we studied, the madrasa, would basically shut down during the month of Ramadan, and everyone just kind of go to your corners and read Quran and fast and pray and make dua, etc. But for a lot of people, for most people, that's not really a possibility. That's not the reality of the situation. So number one, what are some of the kind of goals that maybe you have? Because that might inspire people. And number two, how do you plan on achieving those goals while teaching classes at Qalam, while running the Roots program, the Roots community, heading that, while still having family responsibilities, while, et cetera, right? There's a whole list of things. So if you could kind of touch on both those things.
Yeah, bismillah. I think the key for all of my goals, I have a few goals. I mean, some that are, very personal, and then some that are maybe a little bit more general. But the key for all of my goals, honestly, is this phrase that I've coined now through the 6-week course that we did at Roots, the Preparing for Ramadan session, which is being strategic with my spirituality and not just trying to hope and pray that, the spiritual effects of Ramadan will just kind of appear whenever they do. And I just kind of, it's almost like not knowing exactly how much salt to put in, exactly how much, paprika or cayenne or whatever. Like, you're just kind of winging it. And then at the end of it, you're hoping that it's going to taste delicious. It's obviously, it could happen, right? It might happen to some people, but there's always going to be something left to be desired, either too much salt or not enough salt, etc. So whenever you're looking at how to have a successful outcome, you have to strategize. And strategy, sometimes people assume, or they associate that with like, lack of feeling. It's too boring. It's not intuitive enough. It's not creative enough. Like, I don't want to strategize. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're not talking about business strategy. We're talking about spiritual strategy. So you have to come up with a plan, right? And Imam al-Ghazali has an entire section of his Ihya on this, Kitab al-Muraqaba wal-Muhasaba, I think it's called, I think it's Muraqaba wal-Muhasaba. So the idea of like, okay, it's Thursday, April 8th. Okay, the first day of fasting is going to be, I believe, on Tuesday or Wednesday. Do they know yet? I mean, obviously they don't know yet if they're looking for the moon, but I'm saying for people, what's the assumption based on calculations?
I think it's Tuesday.
Tuesday, right? I think some people have announced first, and I thought, oh, so either way, right? Calculations or not, moon sighting or not, it's going to be next week, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what are we doing for the next 5 days? You know, most people are gonna strategize and say, okay, well, I have to go grocery shopping. That's one thing that my wife and I have already talked about. Grocery shopping, we have to make sure that we know what we're cooking. Some people are going to start talking about, okay, what's our family situation? Are we going to be able to see family? Are people vaccinated? Are friends vaccinated? Should we have iftars with them, outdoor iftars with masks? You're already hearing the conversations about all this strategizing, right? And then you have the next level people, which are like decorations. Okay, what are we going to do to make the house more festive? All of these conversations are very important, but very few people put in that kind of effort to talk about what kind of ibadah and what kind of, you know, deeds they're going to try to do during the month. Very few people. And then magically, you know, the 23rd night comes around and we're like, oh my God, I only have 1 week left. And you were successful in everything else you did. You got all the right groceries. All of your meals were delicious. You saw all the people you wanted to see. Your house looks amazing. But then the 29th night comes and you feel empty. And it's like, why? You know, and it's because we didn't take the proper approach from the beginning, which is, when are we going to sit down for 30 minutes, take out, you know, a pad of paper and just write down goals and how you're going to achieve them. If you want to read more Quran, how are you going to do that? It's you know, it's foolish to be kind. It's foolish, right? And you're lying to yourself if you say, I want to read more Quran. Okay, well, if you haven't thought about how you're going to do that, I have 2 young kids, I have work, I have family responsibilities, this and this. If I haven't put any effort into thinking how I'm going to do that, maybe going to bed early, waking up early, etc., you know, all these different methods, then I'm going to end up disappointed. So for me, and this is me just talking to myself, like, we have a few more days left, and I've been doing this. I've been writing down goals, but now I have to plot out how I'm going to get there. Right? It's like saying you want to go. It's like saying I want to go visit California and not knowing what flight you're going to take. So we have to figure out how we're going to get there. So I have some goals, inshallah. You know, obviously reading more Quran, studying more Quran. I'm actually planning, inshallah. Shaykh knows this, but I'm planning to translate or finish translating and commenting on a book that Shaykh and I actually read and translated last year, which is the book of the benefits of trials and afflictions, and trying to put together some sort of, you know, edited copy that we can, inshallah, publish through Qalam. So there's all these different goals that I have, but I have to be serious about it, and I have to say, okay, you know what? Every day you need to finish 2 chapters of translating. You know, every day you need to finish, you know, 1 juz of reading Quran on your own, or 1.5. Or every day you need to finish, every day you need to do this. And inshallah, I think through that spiritual strategy, I'll be able to accomplish my goals, inshallah. What about you guys?
What's up?
Yeah, so when I think of Ramadan, I reflect over the different ibadat that we have in Ramadan. And out of all the acts of worship that we have in Ramadan, the one that stands out most to me is the one that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala obligated, fasting. And when I look at fasting, what I see is that the focus is on what not to do. And I feel like that's where my journey this Ramadan will begin. And that's where it begins every year. Because fasting is about not eating, not drinking, and not being intimate. So those things usually serve as distraction between a person and, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're walls, barriers that keep us occupied through the day, temptations that we give into. And food and drink are important, but, you know, as many of you may also realize that when you have a busy day, sometimes you just don't end up eating. You know, I've had conversations with the Shaykh, Ustadh, and Shaykh multiple times, and Shaykh is like, oh, I had something in the morning and I haven't had anything all day and it's almost Maghrib time. This could have been a fast, because, you know, sometimes passively we don't end up eating. I think for me as well, food and drink really isn't a make it or break it. It's not something that really tempts me or really locks me down. If I eat, great. If I don't eat, it's not the end of the world. But I do know that there are other vices in my life that are temptations. And if I'm trying to, you know, build myself, rather than focus on what I can do, maybe if I focus on what not to do, even in a busy schedule, I can walk out with a lot of benefit from Ramadan. Because if I end up adding things in Ramadan, like I need to do this much tilawah, or read this many books. To be honest, like Shaykh mentioned at the beginning, our schedule as instructors at the seminary is very hectic. It's very hectic. Like nothing happens in the day until the last period of teaching is done. And with the new Ramadan schedule, that's going to be 4 o'clock. A few hours later, it's going to be iftar. Then once iftar happens again, the imam duties start up again, an hour before iftar. So that means you're busy all the way till 11 o'clock. And then at that point, you rest a little and get up and do it all over again. So the point being is that there really isn't much time. And I think many of us can relate to this. By the time you get back from work, there's probably 1 or 2 hours left till iftar. Some of us nap during that time, just getting some energy out of exhaustion, just taking a little rest. But if I focus on adding things, I might find myself spread very thin. Being able to do Taraweeh, or as much as I can of Taraweeh, in addition to teaching and some tilawah, is probably where I'm going to end up. That's probably going to be the cap. But if I want to make the most of Ramadan, my goal is to see on what things to cut back from. What are things that I could, move out of my life? Some of those things, I've planned 2 things specifically. The first thing I've thought of is, what are some spiritual vices that I have that I can eliminate? For some people, that might be in the form of anger, swearing, backbiting. So what are some spiritual vices that I know that I want to get rid of? And the second thing that I'm thinking of is finding a way to fast from technology to some degree. That doesn't mean that I'm about to go all dead and not going to be connected at all. I don't have the luxury to do that. I have a family, I have work, and I have, responsibilities and commitments. But there is something there that I can cut out. There's something there. And I just need to figure out what it is. Believe it or not, I'm actually, when I meet with some of the instructors over the next, whenever we meet next, that's one of the things I was going to ask the fellow instructors, that what's something that you guys think is a good, easy goal to accomplish in terms of things that we can cut out from our consumption of technology. And if we can cut those things out, it then opens up a new meaning to fasting for us. It's a new mujahada. So when, these are things that I've known to be harmful to me for my life, some of these things, but I just haven't had the courage to remove them. I think there is like an excuse that's ongoing in my heart that it's okay, it's not a big deal, some justification. But my goal this Ramadan is to put my foot down and to truly eliminate some of these things. And that's what I'm planning for this Ramadan, inshallah.
MashaAllah. That's amazing. Yeah, Mufti, when you were mentioning, some of those things, it got me kind of thinking that, number one, I think obviously, kind of looking at maybe some of the negative influences or some of the distractions that somebody maybe suffers from, and then kind of working on remedying that. And I think that that's a very interesting point to make, that it's not only just about quantity, but it's also about quality. And Ramadan can be a time to also improve the quality of things, the quality of what we do, right? That I'm going to work on developing more khushu' within my prayer. I'm going to focus on having more quality in my personal interactions, right? That maybe I have, when I hang out with family and friends, or, we end up talking about people, and we're going to try to stay away from that. And one thing that I wanted to kind of, I wanted to talk about, and I want y'all to share your thoughts on this as well. And I'm going to be very honest here. I'm always worried. One thing that's always concerned me and worried me, and this is something that, my teachers impressed upon me, our mentors impress upon us. You never want to basically kind of make excuses for yourself, even when you are saying something valid, but you also don't want to make sure like you're kind of like, your own defense attorney. You're always just constantly justifying things for yourself. Obviously, you don't want to be overly hard on yourself, but I worry about, because, I have the tendency to maybe, be very defensive. So I always try to be mindful of, I want to make sure that I'm just not always justifying my own behavior, my own conduct, right? I try to be a little bit more critical. So, seeking knowledge. engaging with the meaning of the Quran is a part of engaging with the Quran, right? Recitation is a big part of the month of Ramadan, absolutely. But that doesn't mean that if somebody is reading the translation, or somebody is learning tafsir, or somebody is listening to tafsir lectures, that that's not Quran time. That is also Quran time. Because أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ, the Quran, in fact, Allah challenges us, calls on us. Why are they not reflecting on the Quran, right? So when like I find myself, I'm going to be teaching classes throughout Ramadan, like Mufti Kamani was saying. Ustadh is going to be teaching classes and giving lectures all throughout Ramadan, right? So my first period is a hadith class. Then there's a usul fiqh class. Then there's a tafsir class. Then there's a fiqh class. And, and then doing tafsir sessions online for the community and things like that. Those things are noble deeds. Those things, seeking knowledge is a noble action. But at the same time, I try to question myself that what am I doing outside of those kinds of formal obligations, right? So I think that there's some kind of thought there, but at the same time, for a lot of folks, I do think they need to be reminded of the merit and the value of engaging in those different kinds of things. So what am I talking about? What I'm talking about is this. If there's 30 minutes of tafsir every day being provided by one of the Qalam instructors, if somebody decides this session at 4:30 p.m. Central Time, 5:30 Eastern Time, I'm going to sit down and listen to 30 minutes of tafsir every day. The summary of the juz being recited tonight everywhere, I'm going to learn the meaning of this juz for 30 minutes every day. I think people need to be reminded that counts as part of your spirituality in the month of Ramadan. That's not excluded from it. I don't know what y'all's thoughts are in regards to that.
Absolutely. I think that's a very beautiful point that you bring, Shaykh. So the scholars usually differentiate between like the two terms used, tilawa and qira'ah. One connotates reading the Quran without much reflection, and the other is reading the Quran with reflection. Our dear teacher, Shaykh Yusuf rahimahullah, used to say to us that his teacher, Shaykh Zakaria Khan Dahlavi rahimahullah ta'ala, would actually have two mushafs, two copies of the Quran on his table. One of them he used to read from, and that was just his tilawa, where he would just read and read, just without much tafsiri engagement, without engaging so much with the meaning, just reading, Rawangi said, and he would go through, he would say 10 juz a day in that mushaf. So every third day he would do khatam. But on the other hand, he had another mushaf next to that one, and in that one he would read 1 juz a day.
Wow.
And he would do khatam of the Quran through that. And there's like this ongoing debate, and many have written articles and chapters dedicated to it, which one is more virtuous. And I think Shaykh AbdulNasir solved this so eloquently right now, where in reality it's not a versus situation. The two are not against each other. They go hand in hand and they go together. Sometimes you're doing tilawa and there is a benefit in that, where you're just reading and piling up on the reward and just enjoying the book for it being the kalam of Allah, the speech of Allah. And then other times you're reading it to really engage with it on a very intimate, deep level. And both have immense benefit and faida.
Ustadh, a particular question, that I think also, and I'm trying to figure out what's the appropriate way to kind of express his sentiment, but sometimes if somebody has the privilege and the blessing of having memorized the Quran, being a hafiz, right? So you can recite the Quran very fluently, very fluidly, very easily. However, technically speaking, the reward of listening to the Quran is just like the reward of reading the Quran, right? As-sami'u wal-qari fiha sawa, right? That's what the lines within the book say, that when it comes to qira'atul Quran, al-sami'u wal-qari'u fiha sawa. they are the same in terms of they are both getting reward. So can you kind of talk about like the value of listening to the Quran and how that also sometimes people might underestimate the virtue, the blessing, the benefit, and even just listening to recitation if I can't read it too well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have to begin first and foremost by understanding like what's the goal of reading or understanding Quran. What's the goal of it all? All right. Is it some sort of academic pursuit just for the sake of it? Or is there something deeper? And I think very simply put, without trying to sound too profound, it's just getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the goal. The goal is, how can I remember Allah 24 hours a day? Like what's the possibility of that? And Allah Ta'ala gives us, in His Messenger, ﷺ, they give us a roadmap for that. One of those things is making dhikr, and we know Quran is the best form of dhikr. So if people are like, well, why the focus on reading and listening so much? Remember the goal. The goal is to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as much as possible, right? So if you think that you're doing that, then inshallah you won't have a question mark behind that. So then now we move to the next point, which is listening in terms of reflection similar or the same as reading? And Imam al-Ghazali talks about this too when he talks about dhikr. He says that, dhikr can be a heart that is in reflection, a tongue that is moving, or both. And the best case scenario is both. The best case scenario is that the heart is reflecting, the tongue is moving, meaning that you're saying what you're thinking about. So when I'm saying subhanallah or mashallah or astaghfirullah, as I'm uttering those words, my heart is actually processing what those words mean. And I'm entering into like this vast, beautiful garden of like reflections of that word. So when I say subhanallah, I'm like imagining the beauty of the clouds that I'm looking at in front of my eyes. And I'm saying subhanallah, I'm imagining, the greenery of the grass that was just dead 1 month ago in front of my yard, so you kind of, and as you're saying subhanallah, it's not, guys, it's not like, I think sometimes some people, unfortunately, within the fraternity of Islamic scholarship, they may make dhikr inaccessible, but dhikr is just as accessible as oxygen. It's as if you can say it, you can feel it, you can think about it, right? It's one of the gifts of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that anyone can be dhakir. Anyone can be a rememberer of Allah ta'ala. So remembering Allah and reading Quran and listening to Quran is something that will obviously make you remember Allah more. So the question Shaykh is bringing up is, listening to it is as valuable as reading it? The answer is absolutely yes. Why? Because what's the opportunity cost? It reminds me of the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ, he talked about how the companions would be rewarded for expressing affection and love and intimacy towards their families, towards their spouses. And the companions were a little bit shocked, like, Ya Rasulullah, this is a human thing, right? Like, this is part of our bodily nature. This is part of our emotional side, that we express love and affection and intimacy towards our spouses. Is it true that we would get rewarded for that? And the Prophet ﷺ says, well, is it not the case that you would be sinful had you done it outside of the confines of Islam? And they said, yeah. He said, okay, so doing it within the confines of Islam gives you a reward. So could you be doing anything else with your time? Of course. You could be listening to music or podcasts, or you could be watching a TV show. You could be listening to silence, right? You could be just doing nothing. So if you choose to put on the Quran and listen to it as you're cooking, as you're cleaning, and you're listening, right? Like, you're not just like, it's not background music. It's not like you're a restaurant and you're trying to get Mediterranean vibes, right? No, you're actually, you're letting the words of Quran fill your home. You're imagining the angels descending from the skies and surrounding your home and you're imagining the nur of the Quran filling every dark corner of your house. And almost like you hire someone or you clean your walls, you're imagining the Quran, the recitation of that Quran is cleansing your home from all of the sins that have happened in there. Like, you're just imagining these things. Then of course you're getting rewarded for that. Absolutely, without a doubt. So, this is something we talked about last night, Shaykh, in our session, and Mufti Sahib was there as well, about not undervaluing even the smallest of deeds. The Prophet ﷺ said, "La tahqiranna min al-ma'rufi shay'an." Don't diminish any of your goodness even a little bit whatsoever. So everybody this Ramadan, the goal is have a relationship with the Quran. Can you read it? Absolutely. What if you can't read it? What if you're driving? What if you're working with your kids? What if you're doing something? Then put some Quran on Spotify. It's there. And listen to it. and listen to the same surahs over and over again, and who knows, by the end of the month you may have memorized something.
SubhanAllah.
Yeah,
You know, so just
I knew a brother. He was, subhanallah, for a little while, his job required him to commute like an hour and a half each way.
Wow.
And so he had 3 hours of a commute, and Ramadan came right in the middle of that, job assignment that he had. And he did exactly that. He just kept on listening to Juz Amma over and over and over and over again. By the end of the month, he had a whole Juz Amma memorized. It was amazing.
SubhanAllah.
It was amazing. He's just a normal brother. He's not some, qari or student of knowledge or hafid or nothing, but just, regular brother, just trying to be a little bit more productive with his time. And by the end of Ramadan, he was like, wow, I memorized all of Juz Amma.
Yeah, and you can do it to a point where you tell yourself, like, I'm not going to do something until I've listened to my Quran for the day. So I'm not going to have my coffee until I've listened to Quran. Now, obviously in Ramadan, that's a whole different thing, right? Or I'm not going to take a nap, or I'm not going to, I don't know, work out, or I'm not going to do this until I finish my 30 minutes or 15 minutes, whatever it is, of Quran for the day. And then before you know it, dude, 15 minutes a day, you just listen to like 8 hours of Quran in the month of Ramadan.
That's amazing.
In one month.
That's amazing.
So just again, spiritually strategic.
Yeah.
So what you're saying, Ustadh Murphy, is that there are ways for a person to engage in dhikr while continuing life. It's continuing to do the things that you need to do in your life. You're finding a more maybe like permanent way of bringing that dhikr into your life.
Absolutely. And right now is not the time for people to say, oh, if you don't know Arabic, then you're not going to understand it. Man, a person can listen to Quran and hear the word Jannah, and they can go on 10 minutes of imagining Jannah, right? A person can listen to Arabic. Like, now is not the time to tell people, look, now you have to start studying. Arabic can be studied the other 11 months of the year. Right now, let people just kind of like hang on to whatever they can. So if you hear the word Jannah or Taqwa or Rahma or anything in the Quran, any word that and there's some good apps for this, by the way, that you can have Quranic words, and you can just learn 1 or 2 words a day. And all of a sudden now, as you're praying Taraweeh, you're going to hear these things, and you're going to let your mind start going on that walk, right? And you'll start to reflect on these things.
I love this idea so much, where people have an opportunity to find a way to engage with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala while maintaining the normal schedule of life. Where a mother's being told that you can continue to drive your kids to school, drive them back from school, or you can continue, looking after yourself and, continue to work out if that's what you need to do. But yet there is a way for you to connect with Allah while doing all of this, whether it's before, after, during. It's so sustainable and it's so real. And, it makes it easier for people to hold on to it in the long run.
Yeah,
if we have to create blocks where, I need to do tilawah, so therefore I need to stop everything for an hour and do tilawah. That's amazing. That is absolutely so beautiful for a person to be able to do that. But if you can't, then you're stuck. And then now what do I do? If I can't take out time to do dhikr, like even 20 minutes a day, is there a way for me to do dhikr? I believe Shaykh was saying this a moment ago, where you're just more present in that you're there. Like you're still eating the food, but for a moment before you put that morsel in your mouth, just ask yourself for a moment that, what does this morsel mean to me? Am I thankful? Who am I thankful to? What am I thankful for? And if that's what we can walk out with, Shaykh, can it be argued that that is taqwa?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the whole idea of your tongue doing dhikr, but ultimately it's when you're ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub, right? That's wajilat qulubuhum idha dhukira Allahu wajilat qulubuhum. The ultimate objective is for the heart to become engaged with that dhikr. And if somebody's at that point, whether they're walking and eating and sitting or whatever they're doing, their heart is just connected to Allah. They're thinking, they're reflecting on their blessings and why they're doing what they're doing, why they aren't doing what they're not doing, right? That is kind of living in this state, in this condition of, connectedness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which you appropriately explained as taqwa. You're constantly aware, conscious, cognizant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Ustadh, yeah, go ahead, Ustadh.
When you think about the examples that Allah Ta'ala gives in the Quran, right? In Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah Ta'ala mentions الذي جعل لكم الأرض فراشا والسماء بناء وأنزل من السماء ماء فأخرج به من الثمرات رزقا لكم. Like there are so many different just mundane, normal, everyday experiences mentioned in this ayah so far that it's, and this is in the first, maybe second or third page of Surah Al-Baqarah. It's like, how can people ever be made to feel that the Quran is not a living book that you can just take with you every day? You know what I mean? It starts raining and you just start thinking, wow, the Quran mentions this on like the third page, right?
Yeah.
And then what's the conclusion of that ayah? فَلَا تَجْعَلُوا لِلَّهِ أَنْدَادًا وَأَنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. Don't take partners with Allah. So it just reminds you, like, as you're eating these fruit and vegetables, you go backwards through the cycle and you realize that, man, this is one of the reasons why Allah is one. And it connects you in a very real way. That's the thing Mufti Kamani mentioned, which I like, is like a lot of people's biggest dilemma is, how do I keep my Ramadan vibes after the month ends? If you don't engage in Ramadan in a practical way, you won't be able to do that.
Yeah.
Because you won't be able to eat. I mean, it's like going on vacation and coming back. You have to engage with it in a way that's practical, thinking about things that are happening all the time. Remembering Allah in every moment. It's
like working out at home instead of.
Yeah, it's like on your tonal. Who doesn't even have a who doesn't have a tonal by now?
So, Ustadh, tell us more about this. Can you explain this vacation example a little more?
Yeah, so the one thing that's the same between vacation and home is that, you have to wear a mask.
Yes. And also your shirt. Your shirt also remained the same between vacation and home.
No, this is actually.
This is the vacation shirt. This is the one.
No.
This is the vacation shirt.
It's basically a Muslim version. It's like an Eastern version of a Hawaiian shirt.
Why did you say Eastern and then say Muslim? Are they synonyms, Shaykh?
That's why I switched it, brother. I corrected myself. Oh man. But listen, so there were a few things I wanted to kind of comment on. First of all, is that this idea that y'all were talking about, like very practically engaging with the Quran, and Ustadh started talking about how like rahmah and mercy and rain and ma minas sama, the sky, sama, kitab means book, etc., etc. I don't know. I always bring this up, and I think it's very underrated. Because, look, sometimes I think that we might, I don't know, I'm trying to find the right words to say this, but I think sometimes, I'm just going to say it, and I'm implicating myself when I say this, I think sometimes nerdy people make things more intimidating than they need to be. I
agree. Not just nerdy, but I also think people who have accomplished something, part of the struggle is they don't make it easy for people to join them,
Yeah. So it just sometimes we end up making things more intimidating than they need to be. The meaning and the understanding, just reflecting, connecting with the Quran has definitely become one of those kinds of things, because sometimes people get an impression that you got to study Arabic grammar for like 2 years, then you got to read like 18 books of tafsir, and then you can have any kind of a connection with the Quran. I'm not talking about somebody being a scholar. No. I'm talking about just have a connection with the Quran. And one of the things that I found to be so wildly like underrated is that if you just pick up like 3 vocabulary words every day, like in Ramadan, if you just picked up 3 vocab words from the Quran every day, by the end of the month of Ramadan, you have almost 100 vocabulary words from the Quran. Every time those 100 words come up in reading and listening, in recitation, in Taraweeh prayers, anytime those 100 words come up, you know exactly what it's talking about, and that allows you to connect reflectively with the meaning of it. And that's really powerful.
Yeah,
that's
something
really
anybody
powerful.
Can do. It's something everybody can do.
This reminds me of that conversation we had, Shaykh, this week about a separate discussion, but about the children memorizing the Quran and working grammar into it. Not grammar, sorry, vocab into it.
Yeah, vocab, exactly. vocab into it. Yeah, absolutely. So I think folks need to not be intimidated. They need to be very, encouraged and enthusiastic and excited. And there's very doable, practical things that will allow you to make a lot of progress in terms of your connection with the Quran. One other thing I wanted to mention, because y'all were talking about this earlier, that when somebody kind of sets up like a very difficult standard, they set up a very high bar, a very high standard, and then when they're not able to do it, then they're just kind of like crushed under the disappointment of it. I talked about this last night as well in the closing reflections, but I wanted to mention it again just for my own self, for my own reminder, and for everyone's benefit. And that is, something's always better than nothing. If you're not able to do all of it, at least do some of it.
And partial credit.
Yeah, beautifully said. Beautifully said. Absolutely. And I think that that's really, really something that, once again, not enough value is placed on that, right? So it's like, oh, I wanted to finish the whole Quran in Ramadan. Well, I mean, a week into it, you've only been able to do 2 or 3 juz. And so you're like, I'm probably not going to be able to do it. It doesn't matter. You just keep doing whatever it is that you're able to do. And at the end of the month, if you finished like 8 juz, that is something. And something's better than nothing. Mm-hmm. So,
on this issue, there are 2 thoughts that cross my mind. One of them is that if you are someone who wants to really push themselves, Ramadan's full of seasons. It's as if as Ramadan goes on, the barakah increases.
True.
If you can't push yourself all 30 days, then maybe see if you can take off some time from work during the last 10 days. Mm-hmm. Or even the odd nights of the last 10 days. And if not then maybe the 27th night.
And I saw a brother, he posted a message in a conversation where he said that he takes Friday off, each of the Fridays off in Ramadan. And he said it just becomes a really amazing opportunity. It makes it into a long weekend. I get a lot more Quran and prayer done. It just becomes a really beautiful experience.
I think that's an amazing strategy. You find your moments and carve out those hours and carve out those nights and push yourself. I have kids at home, and to be honest with you, there's not much ibadah the kids end up doing throughout Ramadan. I'll be very honest. They have school, they get exhausted, fasting is tough on them, sleeping schedule gets thrown all off. But in the last 10 nights, we try to like push ourselves a little more. On the odd nights, maybe whenever it's the odd nights, we just sit together and do a little dhikr together, a little group dhikr, do some salawat together, a little subhanallah. I let the kids choose one. There's one dhikr that they like. There's one very beautiful dhikr, which inshallah we'll share more on the social media stuff too. Allahumma innaka afuwun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anni. It's a dua recommended for the last 10 nights of Ramadan. Very beautiful one. The other thought that came to my mind regarding, this is a controversial thing. So I'm going to tread carefully because I don't want to get myself in trouble. But in Ramadan, people, they have this craze, and it's good too. There's good in it. I'm not trying to throw it under the bus. But like there's a must of doing khatam of the Quran. Like if I don't do khatam of the Quran, I'm in trouble. My Ramadan is incomplete. Now, I say to my students all the time, those that are with me, that do khatam, read Quran, complete it, do as much as you can. We know the riwayah that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam would read the Quran to Jibreel alayhi salam, and in the Ramadan that he passed away, alayhi salatu wasalam, he read it twice to him. This is one of the indications that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam would soon be leaving the world. But on that same note, I remember there were a group of ulama sitting together, and we were just talking, and one of the discussions that came up is that, was it common for the Sahaba to read the entire Quran? And I remember that discussion being that it wasn't common for all the Sahaba to read the entire Quran because not everyone had access to the entire Quran.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of support that, idea, Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, he has a hadith in Bukhari and Muslim, and he says, كَانَ يُعَذَّمُ فِينَا مَنْ قَرَأَ الْبَقَرَةَ وَآلِ عِمْرَانَ, which basically translates to, if somebody knew Surah Al-Baqarah and Surah Al-Imran amongst us, like had read that, they were considered a big deal.
Because they had access to it, and not everyone had access. Some people had memorized, and those were the Hafid of the Quran. Now, I know that someone can easily argue and say, well, that's a different story because the Quran wasn't readily available as a physical copy, and today we have it readily available, so it's a different situation. If the Sahaba had a physical copy readily available and they had the ability to read it, would they read it? Of course, I get it, and I'm with you on that. I'm with you. I'm not saying that we shouldn't read the Quran or we should abandon it or that's not a good tradition. I'm just saying that you engage with the Quran to the best of your ability, and push yourself. I think Shaykh AbdulNasir mentioned this earlier. Don't create excuses for yourself. Something that his teachers taught him, that don't create unnecessary excuses for yourself. Be hard on yourself to a degree, push yourself, set goals, try to create discipline in yourself to follow through with those goals. When you're setting your goals, one thing to remember is that you're the one setting them. If someone else sets your goals for you, then the chance of failure is much higher. That's why when you're setting your goals, don't look at other people's realities, look at your own.
Yep.
But once you set your goal, then develop the discipline not to give up. Like if Ustadh Murphy sets a goal that, my goal is that I'm going to work out for 30 minutes every day. That's his goal. He's the one that set this goal. Now, what he should expect of himself is that sunshine or rain, I'm going to be working out for 30 minutes because this was my goal. As opposed to if I were to say to him that I need you to, work out for 2 hours a day, the chances of him following through are going to be difficult because that my goal isn't taking his reality into consideration. So set your goals. What are your goals? What can you do? If you're a healthy person, if you're a sick person, if you're someone that's going through depression, someone that's going through health issues, someone that's recovering from a loss, you know your reality and I know my reality. And in life, the thing is that people will always assume you to meet their expectations, but their expectations are based off of their reality, generally not taking your reality into consideration. And that's why when it comes to pacing yourself in life, when it comes to commitments in life, commitments to your spirituality, your ibadah, take yourself into consideration. And one thing that I'll recommend on this point is have someone who is a confidant who understands you properly and bounce ideas off them.
Yes.
That hey, this Ramadan I'm thinking about, quitting WhatsApp. That's something I'm actually considering. So I actually want to speak to people. One of the things I was actually planning, I mentioned earlier in the conversation, to speak with Shaykh AbdulNasir and Ustadh Murphy, who are confidants of mine and people who I feel that I can share my spiritual goals with, and they can tell me, hey, that's too much, that's too less, that's going to cause harm to you, maybe it's a good idea, And if you feel that your confidants or the people that are close to you say, no, this is a good goal, it's a challenging goal, it's not too easy, it's not too hard, it's a good challenging goal, then say Bismillah and take it on and see the results that'll follow, inshallah.
I think I think the most important thing, especially with the that you mentioned, is remembering not to compare yourself to other people.
Yeah.
And everyone has different strengths and circumstances. And the reality is that if you try to follow somebody else's goals and you don't have the same circumstances, you're going to be very, very disheartened. And maybe lose all hope altogether. So
Ustadh, this whole thing of comparing yourself to other people, even outside of Ramadan, how does a person feel when they are compared to someone else by another person? Like someone says, like, be like your older brother, be like your younger sister, be like your cousin. When someone says that to you, what are you thinking in your mind? What kind of thoughts cross your mind?
I was just having this conversation with somebody because my son and my daughter are so different, man. My son knew his entire alphabet, mashallah, when he was 1 year old. Like, he could recite it. My daughter just turned 2 and she still doesn't know her alphabet. Right? But my daughter is very artistic and incredibly like, she has really good balance. She's got like these interesting skills that my son just didn't have when he was her age, right? And I remember looking, my wife and I were at the playground and we talked, and I was like, isn't it so amazing how they came from the same parents, but they're so different?
SubhanAllah.
And we were like, we're the same parents. We had 2 kids, 2 years apart, alhamdulillah, both healthy, both our children, and there's no other explanation, alhamdulillah. And it's like, and we've tried to raise them the same way, with all sort of with all things considered. And so it's just, it makes a person feel miserable when they're compared, because from the very start they're different. It doesn't matter if they're siblings or they're friends or they're cousins or whatever, classmates. From the very beginning they're different, even if they have the same parents. So how do you expect me to be the same as somebody else who's not even my sibling, my blood relative? So instead of trying to make someone the same, try to just make them the best version of themselves, you know? Like if one of your children is really good at something and the other one's good at something, or if you're really good at something and somebody else is good at something, you need to highlight your strengths and try to rectify your weaknesses and not copy somebody else's playbook. It's not yours, right? It's not yours. So subhanAllah, that's a very good thought, Mufti Sahib.
It's not sustainable. Like I remember when I was in madrasa, there were students who you would read the biographies of scholars of the past, something that we enjoyed. I still enjoy it till today. I love reading biographies because when I read of people that were greater, and I mean, these were amazing, awesome people, it motivates me and inspires me. But one thing that I have to constantly remind myself is that my circumstances are different. And if I try to do that, it's very possible, and I mean this, I'll go crazy in the process. Like I will lose myself. On the other end of it, if I try to become that person, I won't be Hussein Kamani anymore. I read regarding Hassan al-Basri that he was a person that they say that when you saw him walking in the streets, it was as if he had just returned from burying his father. Right? Very sanjida, serious, sort of like, you know, always in a deep reflection, just in tears. I can't imagine that being me. Like if I tried to become that, I wouldn't be Hussein Kamani anymore. I'd be a very different person. You know, I enjoy interacting. I enjoy socializing. I enjoy, you know, being with people. And I think when Ramadan comes, my own teacher, Shaykh Yusuf, rahimahullah, I'm not going to lie to you, he was a very serious person. I mean, he had good moments where he was chilled and relaxed. His jokes were like very mild. I remember when Mufti Taqi Uthmani came to meet Shaykh Yusuf, and they were sitting and they were talking. I mean, Shaykh Yusuf's opening, after greeting him, he said, what he says to this grand muhaddith, Shaykh Mufti Taqi Uthmani, who's sitting in front of him, he says to him, Dekho aaj mausam kitna khoobsurat hai bahar. Like that's how he's conversing with him. You know, it's like, look how beautiful the weather is outside. And even the way he phrased it, it's with so much, it's not like,
so formal.
Like, it's so formal. That's just the way he was. There were students in madrasa that would call him boss because of the way he walked and the way everything had a very special tartib to it. And, you know, anyways, students would try to imitate that. And he would say, no, it doesn't fit you. This is who he was. This was his personality. The guy was like that. He walked in a very particular way. He swung his hands when he walked in a very particular way. He sat in a very specific way. Just be yourself, but try to find these good traits in your version of you. And don't force that personality on you. Otherwise, you're going to go crazy. You're going to come out as maybe my language is a little harsh, but you're going to come out a little weird on the other side.
Yeah.
Unrecognizable
Doesn't
to you
fit.
or to others.
Doesn't fit. It's like someone wearing clothes that's too small or too big for them. It just looks strange.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Jazakumullah khairan. As always, want to thank everyone for tuning in and listening in. Today was a really laid back kind of conversation, but we talked about some very important things about your goals, particularly goals in regards to the Quran in the month of Ramadan, and how to be able to work towards those goals and how to not get demoralized and down if, you know, things aren't going exactly according to plan. I hope and pray it was beneficial and that everyone was able to benefit. Inshallah, I've mentioned this already. If you follow Qalam on, you know, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, etc., Instagram, you've probably seen that this Saturday, April the 10th, this Saturday from 3 to 6 p.m. Central Time, we have a very cool program put together for all of y'all. It's called Making This the Best Ramadan. It's a webinar. You see the topics listed right here. Those who are watching on Facebook and YouTube, you can see on the screen. For those who are listening on Clubhouse, go to qalamlive.com. QALAM, qalamlive.com. If you go there, you'll see exactly what all the rest of us are looking at. We're going to have the fiqh of fasting, fiqh of zakat. That means the rules of fasting, the rules of zakat, women's fiqh, any rulings pertaining to women specifically, Taraweeh prayers, what's the deal with Taraweeh, what is i'tikaf and its concept, salah in spirituality, how do you develop a good prayer in Ramadan, building a relationship with the Quran, and then advice and encouragement on dua, what is some good advice and some good motivation to increase your du'as, your supplications, your conversations with Allah in the month of Ramadan. As you see here, all the instructors will be there, including Mufti Kamani and Ustadh Abdurrahman Murphy. So inshallah, join us this Saturday. And then, like I mentioned earlier, this Saturday we will be at the program announcing, and then we'll also be releasing it online everywhere, where inshallah we're going to be releasing the full schedule in Ramadan. Hold on, I'll come back to that one second. We'll announce the full schedule for Ramadan. Every day there will be 4 programs live, one on dua, prophetic du'as, one on the tafsir, the meaning of the Quran, one will be on Quranic du'as and supplications, understanding them, and then at night we're going to recite a whole juz with the translation provided. So a whole lot's coming your way, but if you tune in Saturday, you'll get that and a whole lot more, inshallah. So please do join us. And lastly, before we conclude, I want to thank Mufti Kamani's camera.
Yeah, seriously.
I'm just having a serious moment. I'm having a serious moment.
For those on Clubhouse, his camera is frozen on Facebook and YouTube right now. The camera's frozen, and so he's laughing, but his face is not moving. Oh, it's fantastic.
Oh my goodness.
I'm not sure why it's doing this.
Amazing.
Here, let me try to put it back. Nope, now we just got the black screen.
Oh man.
But he's still here with us in sound, mashallah. And then I want to thank Bill Gates for Ustadh has changed his name to Bill Gates. Why, Ustadh? Can you explain to us why?
Because it's just really important for everyone to appreciate who we're all becoming. If you get vaccinated, then you are becoming part of Bill Gates.
COVID with a B.
Bill.
So, but Jazakumullah khairan, everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in and listening and for hanging out with us. And we're just very excited for the month of Ramadan. There's Qalam, inshallah, is here to serve you. So please stay tuned. And we'll talk to y'all soon. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.